There's this common misconception that Buddhists are afraid of death, that they're obsessed with death, or that they don't have a concept of an afterlife. Buddhist monks view death not with fear, but with deep awareness and acceptance. Death is seen as a natural part of samsara, the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. It is neither a tragedy nor an end, but a transformation shaped by one's karma and consciousness. Importantly, they do not deny grief or loss, but they do not cling to it. Everything is impermanent, anicca, including life itself. Understanding this allows monks to cultivate equanimity and prepare the mind for a peaceful death, one approached with wisdom, not resistance. Monks contemplate death daily through practices like maranasati, mindfulness of death, to remember the impermanence of life. This reflection helps them detach from material desires, ego, and fear, allowing them to live with greater compassion and clarity. We get busy with our lives, work, family, hobbies, whatever, and we put off thinking about death until one day it sneaks up on us when we least expect it. Or maybe we know it's coming. We have a terminal illness and we just try to push it out of our minds because the thought of dying is too much to bear. But if we want to live full and meaningful lives, we can't just sweep death under the rug like that. We need to acknowledge it, understand it, and ultimately accept it. And that's why in Buddhism, death is something that we talk about quite a bit. It's not taboo. In fact, there are many Buddhist practices that are specifically designed to help us contemplate death, like mindful awareness of death, which I talked about last week, and also mindful dying, which I'll talk about next week. And I'm also going to talk more about death and dying in the upcoming retreat, which will be held online and in person. The link for that is in the description below. So let's start by looking at what death is. From a Buddhist perspective, death is simply the end of the process of becoming, the end of the chain of dependent origination. Now, if you're new here, this might sound confusing, but let me explain. Everything in the universe arises in dependence on other things. Nothing exists in isolation. For example, this teaching depends on me being here to teach it and your mind to receive it. It depends on our eyes to see it, ears to hear it, brains to process it, mouths to speak it, and so on. If any of those things were missing, this teaching wouldn't exist. Because everything arises in dependence on other things, we call that process dependent origination. The chain of dependent origination starts from ignorance, which leads to the formation of views and opinions, which leads to craving, which leads to attachment, which leads to becoming, which leads to birth, which leads to old age and death. So death is simply the end of this cycle. It's the last link in the chain. When we die, our body will eventually turn to dust, our consciousness will fade away, and our name will be forgotten. But does that mean that we cease to exist? Well, according to some religions, yes, that's exactly what happens. They believe that only the soul is real, and that when we die, our soul goes to heaven, or hell, or gets reincarnated into another body. But Buddhism doesn't have a soul that goes to heaven, or hell, or gets reincarnated. What happens when we die is nothing. Our consciousness ceases to exist. Now, personally, I find comfort in that. I don't want to go to heaven or hell, and I certainly don't want to come back and be born as a human or anything else. I'm pretty happy with just being done. Now, you might feel differently. Maybe you do want to go to heaven, or you do want to come back and keep on living, and that's totally fine. Whatever your beliefs are, whether you believe that when you die, you're going to fly up to heaven, fly down to hell, get reincarnated into another body, or just cease to exist, none of that matters. Why? Because you won't be there to experience any of it. The only thing that matters is what you do while you're alive. The main reason why we talk about death in Buddhism is to remind ourselves that life is precious. Life is hard to come by. Think about how lucky you are to be alive right now, to be able to walk outside without dying, to be able to breathe without dying, to be able to see this beautiful sunset without dying. Life is precious and fragile. We could die at any moment. And if we realize that, then we can appreciate it more. We can cherish it. We can also use that realization to motivate us to do good. If we know that we could die at any moment, then we won't waste time doing evil or hurting other people. Instead, we'll use our precious time to cultivate wisdom and compassion. Another reason why we talk about death in Buddhism is to remind ourselves that we can't take anything for granted. As I was driving home last night, I saw this huge sinkhole in the middle of the road and I slammed on my brakes to avoid falling into it. A few minutes later, I saw a guy walking around in it checking out the damage to his motorcycle. He didn't see the hole in time and crashed into it. That made me think, wow, I can't take anything for granted. I can't assume that the road is always going to be smooth. I can't assume that I'm always going to be able to see. I can't assume that I'm always going to be able to drive. I can't assume that I'm always going to be able to do anything. Nothing is certain except death and taxes, as they say. And even taxes aren't certain. Not paying them is a federal offense. And finally, talking about death helps us detach from our bodies and our reputations. We tend to identify strongly with our bodies and with our reputations. And that's understandable. After all, we've been identified with them since we were born. But we need to remember that both our body and our reputation are impermanent. Both of them will change over time. Our body is already dead cells right now. It's just that we don't notice it because we're so used to seeing it. But it's true. Right now, you are dead. You're dead just like that motorcycle. The only difference is that you can still walk around. You can still talk and you can still feel things. But all of that will change. You will become weak and you will eventually stop feeling things. Your body will change in ways that you cannot imagine right now. So please, if you're watching this video, I beg you to consider letting go of your attachment to your body. And the same goes for your reputation. Right now, people see you as kind or intelligent or funny or whatever, but that's not going to last forever. One day, you will no longer be seen that way. People will forget about you. They'll talk about you behind your back. They'll criticize you. They'll gossip about you. They'll make fun of you. So please, if you're watching this video, I beg you to consider letting go of your attachment to your reputation. We talk about death in Buddhism to remind ourselves that our body and our reputation are impermanent. And if they're impermanent, then they shouldn't define who we are. Who are we? We are our habits, our tendencies, our karma. We are our potential for enlightenment. We are already Buddhas deep down, and that's what we need to remember. Thank you so much for watching. May you be happy, may you be well, and may you be free.